What if Princess and one of the most loyal and experienced members of the royal family suddenly decided that she could no longer stay silent? What if a disagreement involving Queen Camilla forced King Charles into a position he never expected to face? That is the dramatic scenario behind today's story. But there is something important to understand before we go any further. There is no confirmed public evidence that Princess Anne has launched an official move against Queen Camilla or that King Charles is facing the exact crisis described in this title. The story we are about to explore is a fictionalized royal scenario inspired by the personalities, public roles, and family tensions that have often surrounded the modern monarchy. And in this imagined situation, the first warning sign does not come from a public argument. It comes from a quiet decision. A decision that leaves people inside the palace wondering whether Princess Anne has finally reached her limit. For years, Anne has been known as one of the most direct members of the royal family. She has built a reputation for hard work, discipline, and saying what she thinks without turning every disagreement into a public drama. She is not usually the person who seeks attention. That is exactly why, in this fictional scenario, her sudden decision creates such a shock. It begins with what appears to be an ordinary day at the palace. King Charles is dealing with the constant demands of royal life. Queen Camilla is carrying out her own public duties. William and Catherine are focused on their responsibilities and their children. Edward continues supporting the king, while Anne remains one of the family's most dependable figures. From the outside, everything appears normal. But behind closed doors, the atmosphere is different. A disagreement has been growing. At the center of it is a question that sounds simple but has enormous consequences for the royal family. Who should have the strongest voice when important decisions about the future of the monarchy are being discussed? Camilla believes the monarchy needs to move forward carefully. She understands that the institution has changed dramatically over the years, and she supports a modern approach that keeps the public connected to the royal family. And, however, sees things differently. In this imagined story, she believes that modernization should never come at the cost of tradition, duty, or family stability. At first, the disagreement is small. A conversation here, a private discussion there. Nothing that would attract attention outside palace walls. But then something changes, and begins asking questions that nobody expected her to ask. Why was a particular decision being made? Who had been consulted? Why had certain family members not been involved? And most importantly, why did she feel that some decisions were being made too quickly? Those questions create tension. Because Anne is not speaking as an outsider. She is speaking as Charles's sister. She has spent decades watching the royal family change. She has seen public opinion rise and fall. She has witnessed family disagreements become national stories. She knows how quickly a private disagreement can become a public crisis. And that is why, in this fictional version of events, she chooses her next move very carefully. She does not confront Camilla in front of cameras. She does not release a statement. She does not make a dramatic announcement. Instead, she asks for a private meeting with King Charles. That request immediately gets attention inside the palace. Charles knows his sister well. He knows that and does not usually ask for a serious private meeting without a reason. When they finally sit down together, the conversation is calm at first, and does not accuse Camilla of anything. Instead, she talks about the future. She tells Charles that the monarchy cannot afford to allow disagreements among senior members to grow quietly until they become impossible to control. Charles listens, but he is also uncomfortable, because he understands exactly what Anne is really saying. She wants him to make a choice, not between his wife and his sister, but between two different approaches to the monarchy. And that is a much harder choice. Camilla, meanwhile, becomes aware that Anne has spoken privately with Charles. Again, in this fictional scenario, there is no explosive confrontation. Instead, there is silence. The kind of silence that can sometimes be more powerful than an argument. Camilla understands that Anne's influence inside the family is significant, and has something that cannot easily be created. Years of experience, years of service, and perhaps most importantly, years of trust among people who know her personally. That makes the situation complicated, because if Charles openly supports Camilla, Anne could feel ignored. If he openly sides with Anne, Camilla could feel undermined. And if he refuses to take a position, the disagreement could continue growing. Charles is suddenly caught in the middle. But that is only the beginning. The real surprise comes when Anne makes her bold move. Rather than asking Charles to remove Camilla from anything, Anne proposes something completely different. She suggests that major decisions involving the future structure of the monarchy should involve a wider discussion among senior working royals. In other words, she wants William, Edward, and other key family members to have a stronger voice. It sounds reasonable, but politically, inside a royal family, it could change everything. Because once William becomes more involved, the conversation is no longer simply about Charles and Camilla. It becomes about the future king. William has generally presented himself as someone focused on stability and preparation for the future. He and Catherine have also become increasingly important to the public image of the monarchy. And knows this. Charles knows this. And Camilla knows it too. Suddenly, the disagreement has a much bigger meaning. Is the palace preparing for the next generation? Or is it trying to strengthen the current reign? That question begins hanging over every private conversation. William is eventually informed that there has been tension, but he does not rush into the middle of it. That would be completely out of character for someone trying to protect the monarchy from another public family dispute. Instead, William asks for time to understand what is really happening. Catherine takes a similar approach. She understands that even a small disagreement between senior royals can become exaggerated once it reaches the public. So the couple chooses caution. And that caution frustrates Anne. Not because she wants William to attack Camilla, but because she wants the younger generation to understand the seriousness of what is happening. Anne's concern is simple. If the family cannot agree privately, how can it present unity publicly? That question becomes impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, King Charles finds himself facing a problem he cannot solve with a speech or public appearance. He has spent much of his life preparing for the role of monarch. He knows how to handle pressure from the media. He knows how to respond to political criticism. He knows how to deal with public expectations. But family disagreements are different. There are no official rules for deciding who is right when the people involved are people you love. Charles is not simply a king in this situation. He is a husband, a brother, a father, and a man trying to protect the institution that defines his life. That is why his next decision becomes so important. In this fictional story, Charles asks Anne and Camilla to meet together. It is not a formal royal meeting. There are no officials sitting around the table. No cameras. No reporters. Just three people. Charles begins by asking both women to explain what they believe the monarchy needs. Camilla speaks first. She argues that the royal family must adapt to changing public expectations. The monarchy cannot remain frozen in the past. Younger generations expect transparency, relevance, and a different relationship with the public. And listens. Then she responds. She agrees that change is necessary, but she warns that change without stability can create confusion. She reminds Charles that the public does not simply want a modern monarchy. They also want one they can understand. The conversation becomes more serious. Camilla says that the family cannot allow old traditions to prevent progress, and answers that tradition should not automatically be treated as an obstacle. Charles listens to both. For a moment, nobody speaks. Then Anne says something that changes the mood completely. She tells Charles that this is not really about Camilla. It is about trust. If senior royals stop trusting one another, she argues, the damage will eventually become visible to the public. That sentence stays with Charles, because he knows there is truth in it. The monarchy survives partly through public confidence, and public confidence depends heavily on the appearance of stability. If the royal family begins appearing divided, people will naturally start asking questions. Who is really in charge? Who influences the king? What role will William have? What does Anne want? And what does Camilla want? The palace cannot answer all of those questions without making the disagreement even more visible. So Charles chooses another path. He asks everyone to step back. No public statements. No leaks. No accusations. No dramatic changes. For a short time, the palace becomes unusually quiet. But quiet does not mean the problem has disappeared. Behind closed doors, people are still talking. And this is where Prince Edward becomes important. Edward has spent years supporting the monarchy without usually placing himself at the center of major family conflicts. He understands both sides. He respects Anne's experience. He also understands Charles's loyalty to Camilla. In this fictional story, Edward privately encourages Charles to stop thinking of the disagreement as a battle that needs a winner. Instead, he suggests that the family needs a new understanding of how senior royals work together. That idea gives Charles something to consider. But before he can act, another problem appears. The younger generation is watching. Prince George is growing up knowing that one day he may inherit the throne. Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis are also growing up within a family whose public life will affect them for decades. William and Catherine therefore have a strong reason to avoid unnecessary conflict. They do not want the next generation to inherit the same kind of family tension that has damaged the monarchy in the past. And that is where the situation becomes emotional, because Charles begins to realize that this disagreement is not only about his reign. It could affect the family that comes after him. If he handles it badly, William could inherit a monarchy carrying unresolved internal divisions. If he handles it well, the crisis could become an opportunity to strengthen the royal family's working relationships. Charles decides he must act. But Anne has already made her position clear. She will not simply step aside. That does not mean she wants power. It does not mean she wants Camilla pushed out. It means she wants her concerns taken seriously. And that is a very different thing. Camilla eventually understands this too. In the fictional scenario, she realizes that Anne's criticism is not necessarily personal, and is protecting what she believes the monarchy should stand for. Camilla may disagree with her methods, but she begins to understand the motivation behind them. That realization creates the first real opening for peace. But then comes the twist. Charles announces that he wants a private family discussion involving Camilla, William, Catherine, and Edward. This is unusual, because the king is effectively admitting that the issue cannot be solved by two people alone. Everyone arrives with questions, and is calm. Camilla is cautious. William is focused. Catherine remains measured. Edward listens. And Charles sits at the center of it all. He tells them that he does not want anyone leaving the room feeling that they have lost. He wants everyone to understand that the monarchy is bigger than any one person. That statement changes the atmosphere, and then makes her most unexpected move. Instead of demanding more authority, she offers something: support. She tells Charles that if he decides to move forward with a new approach, she will help make it work. But she also asks him for one promise: that senior members of the family will be consulted before major changes are made. Charles agrees. Camilla agrees as well. William supports the idea. And suddenly, the crisis that looked like a direct confrontation begins turning into something else. A new understanding. But there is still one question. Why did Anne make such a bold move in the first place? The answer is not jealousy. It is not a secret plan to take control. It is not a campaign against Camilla. In this fictional narrative, Anne's real concern is the future. She has watched the monarchy survive difficult periods because members of the family were willing to put duty before personal feelings. She believes that lesson must continue, and that is why her decision matters. She did not try to defeat Camilla. She forced the family to have a conversation they had been avoiding. That is a very different kind of power. Quiet power. The kind that does not need headlines. The kind that comes from experience. And Charles finally understands it. The king realizes that Anne was not trying to challenge his authority. She was trying to protect it. Because when a monarch is surrounded by competing opinions, silence can become more dangerous than disagreement. A controlled disagreement can be solved. A hidden disagreement can grow. And once it reaches the public, it becomes much harder to control. That is perhaps the biggest lesson from this fictional royal crisis. The most dangerous problems inside a family are not always the loud ones. Sometimes the biggest problems are the conversations nobody wants to have. For Charles, the experience becomes a reminder that being king does not mean every decision can be made alone. For Camilla, it becomes a reminder that her role exists within a much larger family structure. For Anne, it becomes proof that speaking carefully can sometimes achieve more than making a public accusation. And for William, it becomes another lesson in what the future of the monarchy may require from him. Because one day, the responsibility will belong to him. He will have to balance tradition with change, family with duty, personal relationships with public expectations. And if this fictional crisis has shown anything, it is that the hardest challenges facing the monarchy may not come from outside the palace. They may come from within. That is what makes Anne's move so powerful in this imagined story. She does not shout. She does not threaten. She does not demand a title or position. She simply refuses to ignore a problem that she believes could become much bigger. And perhaps that is why Charles is so shaken by it. He knows and well enough to understand that when she finally chooses to speak, she has probably been thinking about the issue for a long time. What happened next changed everything. Instead of allowing the disagreement to become a permanent division, Charles creates a new understanding among the senior family members and agrees to continue supporting the king. Camilla agrees to listen more closely to concerns from other senior royals. William becomes more involved in discussions about the monarchy's long-term direction. Edward continues acting as a steady presence. And Catherine remains focused on supporting William and maintaining stability. Nobody gets everything they want, but nobody walks away. That may be the most important development of all. Because royal families, like ordinary families, do not always solve problems by agreeing on everything. Sometimes they solve them by learning how to disagree without destroying the relationship. And that brings us back to the title. Did Princess Anne really make a bold move against Camilla? In this fictionalized story, yes, but not in the way many people might expect. Her bold move was not an attempt to remove Camilla. It was a decision to challenge the way important family decisions were being handled. And that forced Charles to confront an unexpected royal crisis. A crisis that could have divided the family. A crisis that could have created a new public controversy. But instead, it became a moment of reflection. The deeper question is what happens next. Will Charles continue bringing the senior royals closer together? Will William gain a larger voice as the future king? Will Anne remain one of the family's strongest internal voices? And will Camilla and Anne truly find common ground, or will another disagreement eventually bring the tension back? Nobody can know for certain. There is no confirmed public event matching this exact storyline, and viewers should be careful whenever online claims present imagined royal drama as established fact. But the personalities and pressures behind the scenario are what make it fascinating. Because the British monarchy is constantly balancing two worlds. The world of tradition and the world of change. Charles represents one stage of that journey. William represents the next, and represents decades of experience connecting the past with the present. And Camilla has become an important part of Charles's reign. Their differences, real or imagined, raise a question that will continue to matter for years. How can a royal family change without losing the sense of continuity that keeps the institution recognizable? That may ultimately be the real challenge facing Charles. Not one argument, not one disagreement, not one family member, but the difficult task of keeping different generations moving in the same direction. And perhaps the most surprising part of this fictional story is that Anne's bold move does not weaken the monarchy. It reminds everyone why internal honesty matters. Because sometimes the person who challenges you is not your enemy. Sometimes that person is the one forcing you to look at a problem before it becomes impossible to fix. And that is exactly what Anne's decision represents in this imagined royal drama. She did not need a public confrontation. She did not need a shocking announcement. She only needed to speak when she believed speaking had become necessary. Now the question is whether Charles will remember that lesson when the next crisis arrives. Because another disagreement will almost certainly come. Another decision will have to be made. Another generation will demand change. And when that happens, the royal family will once again have to choose between silence and conversation, tradition and change, personal feelings and public duty. The future of the monarchy may depend on how they handle that choice. So what do you think? If Princess Anne really believed that a major decision was putting the royal family's stability at risk, should she challenge the situation privately, or should she stay completely out of it? And if you were King Charles, would you listen more closely to Anne's experience, Camilla's perspective, or William's vision for the future? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy royal family stories, analysis, and updates, make sure to subscribe for more. Because when it comes to the royal family, the most important story is not always the one happening in front of the cameras. Sometimes, it is the conversation taking place behind closed doors.